that's a very important question that you're asking. And let me just think of only where to begin, because the answers are layered, like always. The typical human response to that is that somebody's just being so caring, or such a good friend, or whatever, many ways to say that. But the real answer is that when that happens to us, which it does, of course, a lot, we're confused. We forget. We actually are not staying clear, or maybe we've never gotten clear about what it is that the other person's going through, because it's triggering our own fear or pain or insecurity. So it looks like, oh, I'm just going to say she, because you commented on Kushi. Sorry, Kushi, but not personal to you. But it looks like, oh, she's so compassionate or empathic, and that's not what it is. The truly being compassionate and empathic is remembering always that it doesn't mean closing your heart, quite the contrary, but always remembering that whatever that person's going through is perfect. It's just perfect. And that if we sit with them and just feel terrible for them and say constantly, oh, you poor thing, which is what's happening, we are missing the truth. We're missing all truth, that nothing could go on for anyone that isn't exactly right. It's impossible. And you'll remember this story. I'll just tell the tale of myself first, but then come back to, what do we do? How can we start training ourselves? Remember, I've told the story of when I was a nurse and my husband, Barry number one, for those of you who know my life story, he was already a doctor, and we lived down south. And we worked at a place called Mission Bay Hospital, which is, of course, right on Mission Bay. Busy, busy ER, just outside of San Diego. Maybe it's even a part of San Diego, but anyway, it's right there. Very busy on the weekends. So Barry, who was the doctor, was just going like crazy. I used to go in on weekends and work as a nurse and assist him. And we examined a woman, and it's just important to tell this whole story, who had a vaginal infection. So I was assisting him during this exam, and it turned out that she had what was known to be a sexually transmitted disease called Gardnerella. And it actually, in medicine, it was iffy at the time, but it came to be known that it was sexually transmitted. But so Barry, who was a very kind man, but busy, said to her, look, you have this infection. There's a good chance it's sexually transmitted. We can treat it, blah, blah, blah. Moving. He's got all these other people in the ER. I help her sign out, and it had to have been at least 30 minutes later, maybe more. I get this sense, an intuition, that she's in trouble. Like, I just could feel her being in pain somewhere. And I was just drawn. I mean, it's one of these stories you can't explain other than guidance, out to the parking lot. And she is there in her car, sobbing, and just really dealing with a lot of shame So I stayed with her and I helped her, and I wasn't that I was so young. I was probably 29 or 30, but I was young in terms of these teachings. I was brand new, in fact. But anyway, we come back. I finish my shift, which ends in 8 hours. Barry has a 12-hour shift. So I went into the doctor's on-call room. I did this all the time. And I started studying because I was taking some classes down there to move on to do some kind of graduate work. I didn't know yet because Master hadn't told me yet. And all of a sudden, I feel myself. It's an odd thing. I just feel myself getting a vaginal infection. It just came. So I went out, I said to Barry, when you're done here, you're going to have to examine me. Something's going on. I mean, I never thought, it never dawned on me. He examines me, and I have Gardnerella. Now, there was no way I could have had Gardnerella. I'd been married for years, and I mean, Barry was my only partner. It was absurd. But I took her infection from her. I opened up in a way that left me so vulnerable to everything she was feeling. I felt terrible for her, but it was that kind of very, very emotional caring. And I got her infection. And I said to myself, literally right then, this thought came, you better learn to deal with this differently. I didn't know anything yet about what that would look like because this could be a cancer. That's what I said. And it could be. And it was such a meaningful beginning of a lesson to me. And then moving on for years, getting, I would say, to be with people who had everything, so much pain, so much suffering, so many diseases, including emotional and psychiatric. So it could be a cancer or a bad infection, but it could be the loss of a loved one. It could be just any kind of pain in any relationship, or their house might have burned down, or their child might have died. I mean, what could be worse? But spiritual principles don't change. It doesn't matter, actually, what's causing that pain. It matters to us because we are compassionate and we care. And if somebody loses a child, that's huge. If they lose their house, that's huge in a different way. If they have pneumonia, it's bad, you know? I mean, I learned very early on that whatever that person is dealing with, that's huge to them. For most people, it takes up all of their psychic and emotional space. But I've also learned over the years that I can help them much more when I remember that what they're living through, if I can help them see it, is a gift. It's ultimately a gift that this little moment in life, whatever it is, but whatever it is, I had a horrible fight with my husband and I don't know what to do and I'm distraught. Or worse, I found out my partner's having an affair and I'm distraught. Or I'm worried about my child. Again, go on and on and on. It's one life. It's one moment in one life. We're talking about the soul's long journey. That's what we care about. We care about soul growth, not just soothing pain. You know, this is why Swamiji and Master always use, both of them, the example of a doctor having to give you a shot or give you medicine that doesn't taste good, but he helps you through the disease. You wouldn't want the doctor to be so compassionate that he or she said, oh, the shot will hurt, I'm not going to give it to you, and let you have the disease. They help you through the pain. This is going to hurt a little, but it will help you. Now, the important thing is we stay with people and we're asking ourselves for guidance. What is the next thing that they can hear? Not what do we need to say, because most of the time, for all of us, we can't hear the whole truth. So counseling or friendship, whatever version it's taking, is an extraordinary act of compassion. Where is this person and what's going to help? Not everything I see. I mean, what good would we be to anybody? But what's the next thing, and how can I always hold it up? I'll share a story. It's a very personal story, but I think it's okay. I hope it's okay. Most of you know Pam and Sam Barone, and you probably know that, and they've been together for years. They're a really deeply connected and loving couple. And she just had some symptoms, went into the hospital, and was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And so far, we don't know the type of cancer, and so things are on hold. But still, they were hit with this news that she has a brain tumor. Now, that's a big deal. They already had to go in a certain way and do a biopsy. It's not subtle to have a brain biopsy. It's different if you're having a skin biopsy or many types, but it's weird having people stick needles into your brain. It's terrifying. So they went through all of that, and a lot of things that happened to her in the hospital. Then she came home. And I went down to see her a couple of days ago. And there were other people there the whole time. And the tendency always, so she's laying in this lounge chair kind of, not feeling great, but quiet, inward, huge picture of Master looking right at her. And what happens in those situations often is conversations start happening. And soon we're hearing stories about people's grandmothers or their family, or funny stories about this or that. Now, that's not necessarily bad, but I could feel that it wasn't totally where Pam was. She wasn't objecting. So every once in a while, I would try and incorporate a story about Master or Swamiji, but it wasn't working. It wasn't bringing the energy back. So I had to say to myself and ask for guidance, because every time I interrupted the energy, I wouldn't say insulting somebody, but whoever was speaking wanted my attention. And I had to behave in a way that was saying, I'm not going there. I don't really want to talk about, I could list things, but I'd rather not. But whatever they were, these are very good people who were there. They were there because they love Pam. But that just happens. I've seen it over and over. In fact, I've told Lakshmi, if I die slowly, and I'd like to be an Iris if that happens, in that home that I love in the community, give everybody this message. When you go in to see Shanti, no talking. Nobody's allowed to talk, because it's remarkable how quickly the conversation devolves. And I just don't think my soul's going to want to hear that then. And I don't want my soul to hear that then. So, but I'm saying this because I had to find the way to tune into where Pam was. She probably wasn't even as aware as I was, but she wasn't present in that. And then without hurting anybody, find her place and just do this. Just this. I could have said, let's all stop and meditate, let's all stop and chant, because they would have given me that right, but it wasn't the right thing. I had to tune into each person in the room and try and, before I left, make sure that I offered Pam something spiritually uplifting, but not denying of her situation. This is awful. You have a brain tumor. And how can we just a little bit help us all remember that the masters are right here? They didn't forget about you and give you a brain tumor. They actually handed you the brain tumor. But you can't say that out loud much of the time because we're just not ready. And I want to tell a story of myself, but I have to try and remember the situation, and it's not coming back to me. But about a week or two ago, I know what it was, but I'm not going to tell the story, but I'll tell a little bit around it. I got really hurt and upset about something, and a friend, somebody from the community, came over for a different reason, but this topic came up, and I was distressed about it for many reasons. The whole situation felt out of tune for something that should be happening in our community. But my friend just said, oh, isn't it funny how God works? Oh, well, that's almost funny, but it wasn't funny to me. And about 3 or 4 times he said that, and finally I said to him, that's not helpful to me right now. It's just not helpful. Ultimately, it may be the truth, but right now you're here and I'm suffering. I mean, suffering's a strong word, but, just so we have to tune into where the person is, or people just feel left. But we can't engage in their pain with them. That's always, honestly, about us, not them. And that's an important lesson to remember and to try. If we actually want to be helpful, we have to get our act together. So, does that make sense? Or, yeah, okay.